Kristi Noem says LA wouldn't be standing if Trump didn't send the troops. What? LA wouldn't be standing? Here it is.
But we will continue to go after the worst of the worst across the country, like President Trump has told us to do, focusing on those that are perpetuating murder and trafficking of drugs and humans across our country, knowing that every single citizen deserves to be safe.
Part of what distinguished the Los Angeles operations, however, is that National Guard troops were there, in essence, protecting or backing up those federal agents as they conducted operations. Is that what we should expect to see in Chicago?
You know, that always is a prerogative of President Trump and his decision. I won't speak to the specifics of the operations that are planned in other cities, but I do know that LA wouldn't be standing today if President Trump hadn't taken action. Then that city would have burned down.
I just want to clarify one thing you said there. You said LA wouldn't be standing if not for these federal deployments?
So many of those homes and businesses that were in downtown LA and in those areas were dealing with riots and violence, and coming in and bringing those federal law enforcement officers in was incredibly important to keeping peace.
Not only is that a lie, the whole thing was illegal, what Trump did. Let's get into it. Now, 2 months after the National Guard was deployed to Los Angeles, a federal judge ruled that Trump illegally deployed the National Guard because they're the National Guard under jurisdiction of a separate authoritative agency. Federal judge in California Tuesday ruled that the Trump administration violated the 19th century law barring the use of soldiers for civilian law enforcement activities when it mobilized 4,000 National Guard troops and 700 Marines to Los Angeles in June. This law is so damn simple. It's been interpreted multiple times by the federal court. There's not a real significant argument to qualify this as legal, at least not in a judicial sense. There's no real appetite politically to qualify such action, except in one context. If Donald Trump says so. Republicans and Democrats have universally agreed utilizing the military in order to engage in policing activity is typically a no-no and deemed unconstitutional, against the rules of engagement. Not allowed to do it. You cannot become commander and chief of police in the United States of America. There's more. Quote, the evidence at trial established that defendants systematically used armed soldiers whose identity was often obscured by protective armor and military vehicles to set up protective perimeters and traffic blockades, engage in crowd control and otherwise demonstrate a military presence in and around Los Angeles. U.S. District Judge Charles Breyer in San Francisco said in the 52-page ruling. That's called an occupation, military occupation. They come to set up, block streets, limit access, create mobility barriers, and they, in the domestic context, back up the police. Well, let's get into that. Quote, in short, defendants violated the Posse Act, he said, very common. Everyone knows it. Lawyers representing California argued during a trial last month that the president had exceeded his authority by deploying federal troops after thousands of protesters took to the streets of downtown LA to protest his immigration policies. California had asked the judge, Breyer, to order the Trump administration to return control of the remaining troops to Governor Gavin Newsom and to stop using the military to execute or assist in the execution of federal law. I'm going to get into that ruling in a moment. the Department of Justice countered that the deployment was necessary to protect federal property and personnel, and that the troops acted within the confines of the obscure law. The 1878 statute prohibits the president from using the military as a domestic police force without approval from Congress. Let me tell you how we got here. Your first issue is the way the judge ruled. The judge should have ruled in a way that would have required the administration to file an appeal to the order. Ordering Trump to do something, that's a little different than simply stating the order yourself as a matter of law. And as a matter of law, restoring the normative powers back to Newsom. But in the ruling, he's saying basically, the judge is saying basically, you have authority here, Mr. President. You just don't have the authority to utilize them in the way that you did. I think that's a mistake already. Number two, 1878 statute. You can't do anything like this unless you get approval from Congress. Well, you know what? There's a statute even older than that one that presidents have ignored. It's called Articles of War. It's in the U.S. Constitution. United States of America cannot engage in creating articles of war except by way of congressional approval. When was the last time that happened? You see, that's the issue. You start in a way that seems subtle, and then the argument is it's necessary. We have to do it for expediency, to protect. Then both parties are doing it. Democrats, Republicans, they both have done it. It's in the Constitution. And now it softens the blow. It softens the impact to the collective consciousness of an American citizen when a president of the United States does something very similar, but now against his own country. That's how we got here. All right, it's part of it. Sharon, thoughts here?
Yeah, this president wants, as you pointed out, a national police force. Kim Jong-un has one. Sure, there's one in Moscow and the other cities and surrounding areas in Russia, because that's what he wants, to control you gathering, speaking, voting. Why not voting too?
Right.
This is a sick. And if people can't stand up now and realize we're under a dictatorship, a police state, I don't know what we can do to convince them.
Well, there are some who are awakening. There are some who voted for Trump, and they are saying no more. We shall see if it continues.